attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Am I audible to everybody? Yeah, this is Priyanka Kapoor. We'll wait for some 4-5 minutes more to let all the people join us together on the webinar. Hello, Monali. Hello, Monali. Yeah. Can you hear me? One more question. Hello, Monali. Am I audible to you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, we'll start our webinar in another few minutes to wait the other people get registered. So just hold on with us. Okay? Okay, is it Mr. Karwatullah Khan? Hello? Is it Karmatullah? Hello, is it Tamanna? Hello, Tamanna. Hello, Tamanna. Hello, Tamanna. Okay, Tamanna. So we'll start our webinar in another 1 or 2 minutes. So please be with us. Thank you. So guys, I'm here to brief you regarding a brief introduction to clinical research, its job opportunities, roles which you can play once you enter into the clinical research industry. Let me first introduce myself. I am Priyanka Kapoor. I have been into the clinical research industry for last around 7.5 years and have a lot of experience with very renowned companies, and right now I am working with IGMPI as a consultant to brief you all people to make yourself more aware towards clinical research, its opportunities, the roles which you can play and which you may look ahead for your own careers. So I will be going around with my PPT slowly. At the end of the PPT, in between you can post your questions on the question section, and at the end I'll answer each question, and even if you want to get connected to me verbally, I can unmute you people to get connected to me at the end of the presentation. I hope you people have an idea to send your questions and to get connected to me at the end of the presentation. Okay. With myself, I am Priyanka. I have been working with companies like Ranbaxy, with companies like Fortis Clinical Research, and now I am doing a lot of my freelancing on my own, and I am working with IGMPI to actually make people aware of the clinical research industry, to make people aware of the opportunities which we do have, and the facilities and the courses which IGMPI may provide you to cater yourself to make your careers into the clinical research industry. Okay. So right now, I mean, if you go on with clinical research, then the first thing which comes to our mind is what actually is clinical research. So when it talks about clinical research, then I would like to tell you that clinical research actually is a kind of a branch of a healthcare science which actually determines the safety and effectiveness of medications, of medical devices, of any diagnostic products, of all the treatment regimes which are intended to be used in humans. So clinical research basically is a kind of the research which is carried out in human subjects to diagnose whether their safety or the effectiveness once they are administered to the human individuals. So this, as a part of clinical research, there is a trial which is being held, which helps the people to know what is the effect of a particular drug or a medical device or any investigational product. So the first thing when we think of clinical research, what comes to our mind is a clinical trial. So I would like to tell you what actually a clinical trial is. I hope you can see the screen which gives you a definition of clinical trial, which I have incorporated from ICH. I hope everybody must be aware of ICH. ICH is International Conference for Harmonization. It was a organization which was built after a treaty between big nations like United States, Japan and United Kingdom to come together and to harmonize their rules regarding what all is required to be done when you investigate a particular product. So ICH has several guidelines related to clinical research, related to pharmacovigilance, related to drug guidelines, efficacy guidelines. So this definition of clinical trial I have incorporated from ICH. ICH is an international body which is being followed by most of the developed and underdeveloping and developing countries all around the world. Even India does comply to ICH, but to be very frank, India has its own GCP, that is Indian GCP, good clinical practices, which has been designed by the CDSCO, which is the regulatory body of India. So all those guidelines which have in Indian GCP are also incorporated from ICH only. So this definition of ICH of clinical trial says any investigation which is being done in human subjects so as to discover or to verify any clinical, any pharmacological or any pharmacodynamic effect of an investigational product, or it may be even an adverse reaction of a particular product. It may be the ADME profile of the investigational products. So if you read, this is a definition. If you go to the crux of the matter, it's like it is any investigation which is carried out in human subjects. Okay, the reason can be different. Reason can be either discovering a new pharmacological action, discovering a new effect of a investigational drug, it's ADME, or to verify all this. Even at times, trials are being conducted to verify a particular adverse event. Like suppose during the development of a drug, we identify this is a particular adverse event which may happen. So a trial may be conducted to verify, to what extent these AEs do occur, these adverse events occur. So any trial which is being conducted on human subjects to investigate anything related to a product will be a clinical trial. Okay, so now clinical trial is prevalent elsewhere in the world, but in India it's really booming, and the reason why it's booming in India is because of several reasons. You can see the slide. The main reasons why it is booming in India is It's widely recognized that India offers unique opportunities for conducting clinical trial because of the large patient pool. We have a very big patient pool. Then we have trained investigators. We have premium medical institutes where these researches can be held. And the last but not the least, a low cost per patient. Obviously in India we are very well aware that poverty is, we have a lot of people who are below poverty line and a lot of the people who may enter into these trials for financial benefits also. So because of the low cost of the conduction of the trial, India offers a very good opportunity for conduction of clinical trials. For the sponsors everywhere in the world, they are focusing to get themselves to conduct the clinical trials in India because of the low cost which is being associated with the trial being conducted in India. As to tell you, there are around 7 lakh specialty hospital beds, there are 221 medical colleges, there are skilled English speaking medical personnel out here, and the biggest advantage not to be forgotten is the low cost which is associated with clinical trials in India. A trial, if of a standard drug in US, can cost to something like $150 million, and a similar trial in India could be conducted at 60% less cost. And when a person who is placing the money into a trial gets a trial done at a 60% lower cost, then obviously you can expect who will not ever want to conduct a trial in India. So that's why India is a big region of interest for all the sponsors elsewhere in the world. Now when you talk of clinical trials, you people can ask your questions at the end and can post your questions in the question answer section also. I'll try to answer them either right now or at the end of the presentation. Okay, so now what are the actual key roles when it comes to clinical trials? There are few important thumb points of clinical trials. The first one is a sponsor. Sponsor, as we all know, is the one who financially helps in conducting a clinical trial. So sponsor is the one who actually financially helps in the conduction of the clinical trial. Then the other key points which come into action are the sponsor may actually give all the duties of conducting a clinical trial to a CRO. A CRO, what do you mean by CRO? CRO is a contract research organization. There are several sponsors internationally also, national sponsors also, who have money, who want to bring their product into the market, who want to get their trials conducted, but they don't have a structure for conducting a trial. So they may in turn give all the duties to a CRO, that is contract research organization, for conduction of a clinical trial. Then this CRO, once have an agreement with the sponsor, they do all the activities related to the clinical trial. Then after CRO, then the CRO needs to actually search on CRO or the sponsor. This can be done either by the sponsor directly, and if a sponsor wants, can actually give all the duties to the CRO with an agreement with them. So these CROs or the sponsors then search for investigators for conduction of the clinical trial. Investigators, who are investigators? Investigators are basically doctors. Usually the CDSCO gives right only to the pharmacologist or the doctors with the medically qualified doctors who have the right to conduct a clinical trial, because we all are very much aware that during a conduction of the clinical trial there are chances of lot of adverse events which may have an adverse effect on the safety of the human beings which are involved as subjects in the clinical trial. So investigators, being medically qualified, having a knowledge of the body, having knowledge of the adverse effects and how to manage them, are the key points of the conduction of a clinical trial. So investigator is a single point of control of the entire investigation, which is basically a clinical trial. Another thumb point of the clinical trial is a ethics committee or an institutional review board, which we usually in short we call as IRBs. These ethics committees or IRBs are basically the independent bodies which are neither associated with the sponsor, neither associated with the CRO, neither associated with the investigator, but play a very crucial role in conduction of a clinical trial. This ethics committee or IRB, it is a body of few people who maybe are from their different fields, whose main job is to actually look into and for the protection of the safety and well-being of the human subjects who are employed, who are actually enrolled into the study of a particular drug. Actually, we very well know any person who is a sponsor who has placed money to get their trial done, they would every time want that anyway their financial benefits must come out, the drug must prove its efficacy, and so that they can sell the drug into the market. But they can even do at the cost of somebody's life, they can even do at the cost of somebody's well-being. But this ethics committee has a key role in protecting the safety and well-being of the subjects. At each point in the clinical trial, right from approval of the protocol to the approval of the clinical study report at the end, ethics committee at each point gives its approval. No protocol can be executed without getting approval from an ethics committee. So once a sponsor develops a protocol and chooses a CRO or chooses an investigator, they have to send this protocol to the ethics committee, which is a set of people who review the entire protocol for all its pros and cons, look into the aspects, each and every aspect of this trial, whether it is going to hamper anybody's health or anywhere the well-being and the safety of the subjects is being compromised, and they'll go to each and every technical aspect of the protocol, and in case that they find that the risk is to benefit ratio of the trial is high, that is the benefit of the trial is would be good and the risk involved is very less, they may give the approval for conduction of the clinical trial. So these are the people who are ethics committee. Actually, ethics committee is a group of people. I'll come to you later. I'll discuss each point separately. Then another important aspect of clinical trial is the quality assurance. It's very important that the quality is maintained during the conduction of the clinical trial. So it is a responsibility of the sponsor to ensure the maintenance of the quality standards, ensure the compliance to the SOPs, ensure the compliance to the guidelines, depending upon the regulatory region. So if a trial is being conducted in India, we need to comply to Indian GCP, we need to comply to Schedule Y. I hope everyone must be aware of Schedule Y. Schedule Y is a set of laws and regulations set by the Indian government which need to be complied for conduction of the clinical trial. Schedule Y has its origin in the Drug and Cosmetics Act, which was made for drugs and cosmetics to be manufactured, to be marketed, to be developed in India. So this Schedule Y is specifically a part of Drug Cosmetic Act which details how the clinical trial has to be done, what all things have to be complied while doing a clinical trial. So this is the duty of the sponsor to maintain the quality. And how will a sponsor do that? How will a sponsor ensure that the quality standards are being maintained? How will he ensure that the SOPs are compliant? How will he ensure that the guidelines are being followed? There are two ways. One is to set their internal monitors, whom they send to the investigator site where actually the trial is being conducted. But obviously a sponsor always wants a result in his site. So there may be a chance of bias. So to avoid this bias, we have quality assurance systems, because quality assurance systems do not report to the sponsors. They are independent. They do the quality audits of a particular trial and give their audit reports to the sponsor, give their audit reports to the investigator, and tell where the lacking was there, where the SOPs were not compliant, where there was a non-compliance to the regulations. And this quality assurance usually in clinical trials may be a third party who is not associated with neither with the sponsor, neither with the investigator, neither with the ethics committee. They can be a third party QA auditors also, who will audit the entire trial independently and will give their audit reports so as to ensure compliance to all the guidelines and the SOPs. Then once the trial is over, or even when the trial is going on, a very important thing that comes into being is record keeping and data management. Record keeping, very essential. Why? Because the trial is conducted being today, which may be audited, which may be looked into 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line during the time of a regulatory inspection. So all records must be very nicely kept in a manner that their integrity is not at all destroyed. We need to store each and every data of a trial, right from the identity of the sponsor, his medical history, what all was being administered to him, at what time. Each and every single detail should be captured, and it should be kept and maintained for long. There comes into being the record keeping and data management. Earlier, all the data management used to be hard copies, but looking into the regulatory requirements, now everything is being electronic. And then there comes the CDM thing, which is clinical data management. There are a lot of softwares which are being provided by the software companies, so that there the data can be kept and saved for long for future review of the regulatory bodies. So these are the key points like sponsor, CRO, investigator, ethics committee, quality assurance and clinical data management. These are the important poles of the clinical trial. I'll discuss each one separately, and later the job opportunities which each one can provide to you people who are aspiring to come into this field. Now let me talk about sponsor. What all are the responsibilities of a sponsor? The first responsibility, if a sponsor doesn't want to conduct a trial on its own, it has to select a CRO. For selecting a CRO, it should qualify a CRO. They should look on that CRO should have all the facilities, all the functions which are necessary for maintaining and carrying out each and every aspect of the clinical trial. So a sponsor should first select a CRO, have a written agreement with them, so that what all were the responsibilities which will be bared by the CRO, what all will be bared by the sponsor, who will be responsible for selecting an investigator, who will be responsible for selecting the sites, site audits, monitoring, financial aspects, advertisements, recruiting of the volunteers. Everything must be discussed between a CRO and a sponsor. So sponsor first of all selects a CRO. CRO can then further do all the functions if at all it is being agreed between the sponsor and a CRO. Then what should a sponsor do? It can either ask a CRO to select an investigator or can select an investigator site on its own. They need to select an investigator. Investigator is one of the most important role of a clinical trial, because he is the most qualified person who is conducting a clinical trial, who is most aware of all the aspects of a particular investigator product. The investigator should be given an investigator brochure well in advance, so that he goes through the drug, its entire class of the drug, its action, its pharmacology, its pharmacodynamic, pharmacokinetics, what all are the adverse effects, what all are the doses, what is all preclinical studies. Everything must be written in the investigator brochure and should be provided to the investigator. Then sponsor is very much responsible for maintaining the quality standards. So he should be the person who has to ensure quality assurance during the conduction of the trial. Then trial design, again sponsor, because he wants to get the trial done in his own ways. Designing of the trial is his job. It's normally the people of pharmacokinetics, people who have pharmacodynamics, people who are doctors are involved in designing of the trial, so as to reach the primary and the secondary objective of a trial. Actually every trial there is a primary objective which is set. Why at all are we conducting a clinical trial? Whether do we need to check its pharmacological action? Do we need to take an adverse event effect? Do we need to check, determine a particular dose? Do we need to check in the off-site patients, like other patients, like if your trial is being conducted in males, then what will it have in respect in females, if it is pregnant females, from children, in geriatric patients like elderly patients. So trial can have several objectives. So the trial design should be such that it meets its objective. Okay. So then medical expertise should be given by the sponsor. He should have a set of people who are medically qualified and provide the medical advice during the making of the protocol itself, so that at no point of time the safety and the well-being of the people is being hampered. Once again I will tell you, anybody who has questions can post their questions and I will definitely come back to you at the end. If you want, you can write that you want to talk to me, I'll connect to you and will talk to you at the end. Okay? All the people who are there, am I clear to everybody? Okay, I'll go ahead. Then there should be a trial handling, how to handle a trial. It's the responsibility of the sponsor. Then how to keep a record of everything which is being done during a trial, data management, then setting up of a DSMB or IDMC. DSMB is actually a separate board which is being conducted at the time of conduction of a trial, telling that which keeps a check on everything, each and every progress reports, how the trial is progressing, whether it is progressing fine or not, at any point of time where the safety is being hampered or not. Okay. So then monitoring also is a responsibility of the sponsor, because at each point of time, after several intervals, the sponsor should send its monitors in the form of CRAs who monitor the aspects of the clinical trials and conduction of the clinical trial, who check whether the protocol is being complied, all the things are being held or not, because sponsor is the one person who is actually financing the trial. So he should have a check that everything is well compliant, everything is done in the best way. So he should keep a regular monitoring of different aspects of the trial. Then in the end, what comes to is reporting to the regulatory. It's the duty of the sponsor to report to the regulatory regarding the trial completion in the form of the report, or in case of any events which have occurred or not, then they, in between, suppose if a SAE occurred in between, so it's the duty of the investigator to respond to the sponsor, and the duty of the sponsor to send the report to the regulatory, because for SAE they should be well informed within span of 14 days. Okay. So the next, this is all what sponsor should do: CRO selection, investigator selection, quality assurance, trial design, then trial handling, record keeping. They can even outsource this record keeping and data management to some company. Nowadays many sponsors outsource to the big software companies like Oracle or to some CROs itself, but monitoring and reporting to the regulatory stays with sponsor. Then what does the CRO do? In case it has been handed over to the CRO, then it's the duty of the CRO for investigator selection. They will select the investigator in the region in which the study has to be held, and they can go on with the trial. Karmatullah, I find number of questions you have asked to me. I'll be answering to you at the end. I can see all of them at the right. Midnight Roy, also I see your questions. Ashish, also I see your questions. I'll come to each of your questions at the end of the PPT. Okay, thank you. So, okay, then the CRO is the job of the CRO is record keeping in case it has been outsourced by the sponsor to the CRO. Then they need to do data management, and obviously when they are conducting the trial, reporting should be very frequent. They should report to the sponsor time and again about the progress of a trial, about the occurrence of the AEs, about the occurrence of the SAEs. Okay, and even they have to keep the reportings with EC and IRB. Okay, so this is about the job of the CRO. See, CRO and investigator have a similar kind, not investigator, sponsor have a similar kind of responsibility. If a sponsor gives everything to CRO, then CRO is responsible for everything. Okay, but quality systems and reporting to regulatory stays with this sponsor because it's a trial of a sponsor. Okay, then another important aspect of the clinical trial is an investigator. It is a single point of control for a trial. Trial can be of several kinds. It could be a single site trial, could be a multi-centric trial, like at different centers, different investigators are there and similar trial is being conducted. So each trial would be conducted at a particular site. There would be one investigator at a site who will be the principal investigator. Depending upon the strength of the trial, there can be number of investigators who work under principal investigator, and along with them they work together to bring a trial to a success. They can be this trial can be done at several centers, not only one center, and can be done under several investigators. Then the CRO coordinates with all the sites. suppose there is a trial which is being conducted, one in Madhya Pradesh, one in Karnataka, one in Jammu Kashmir and one in West Bengal, because we need the data of all the races from all parts of India. And a single CRO which is sitting in Delhi is conducting a trial. So this CRO will manage the entire trial. There will be investigators at different sites, at Jammu Kashmir, at Karnataka, at Madhya Pradesh and at West Bengal. They will be coordinating with all the investigators. Each site will have a separate principal investigator. Okay, each site will be visited by the sponsor to ensure the compliance to the SOPs, to ensure the compliance with the protocols time and again. So these are the CRAs actually of the sponsor who time and again visit the sites. So investigator, when it comes to one site, he is a single point of control of a trial. He has to handle the trials, he has to handle all the adverse effects and adverse drug events. I hope everybody must be clear about an adverse event and adverse drug reaction. If not, I'll give you briefly, I'll tell you about adverse event. See, any untoward event which occurs during the time of a conduction of a clinical trial at a particular site is an adverse event. So you expected that you will give paracetamol to a patient and he may develop some kind of a headache or he may get some kind of dizziness or he may not feel like having food. So everything, any adverse event which is not actually supposed to happen is adverse event. Even I would say, if a person falls down from his bed and gets injured, it is even an adverse event. Okay, but it is not an adverse drug reaction, because an adverse event may or may not be related to a drug. In case it is related to a drug, then it becomes an adverse drug reaction. That okay, he developed dizziness because of paracetamol. This is an adverse drug reaction. But he fell down from his bed and got injured. It is an adverse event because it occurred at the time of trial. But it is not a drug related event. Okay, so it is an adverse event. Anything which occurred during the trial because of the may or may not be because of drug is an adverse event. Because of the drug is an adverse drug reaction. Okay. So investigator, being a medically qualified person, has a job of handling all these adverse events. Suppose a person gets ill, gets fever, gets emesis, that's vomits, or any other effect, then it's a job of the investigator to handle his adverse event properly, giving him good medication and not affecting the effect of the particular drug also. And all those things like what all he administered, at what time the event occurred, what day it occurred, on the 7th day, 9th day, 10th day, 8th week, 15th week, at what time, everything should be captured. Then what did the investigator do, what all tests did he get done, what all was administered to the patient, all should be captured in the records. Then handling of the staff at the site is the job of the investigator. He is responsible for the compliance to the protocol and SOPs. He is responsible for the informed consent. As I told you, informed consent is very important thing. A person who is entering into the trial should have given informed consent that he is readily and voluntarily participating into the trial. It should not be forced onto anybody. The person, if I want to enter into a trial, I should have given a voluntary consent that yes, I know this trial is for this product, this trial will have this much adverse event, this trial will have this much effect. Still, I want to participate in the trial. I am very well aware of the research which is being conducted. I am aware of the compensation which is being paid to me, and I want to participate in it. So it should be a voluntarily informed consent. Nobody can be forced to participate into a trial. This is against the ethical conduct of the study. You cannot do that. In case at times there are people like a trial is being conducted in children, and children may not be that aware that what the effect will happen to them. So LAR, that is legally acceptable representative, can sign on their behalf, or an impartial witness also. Normally in clinical trials LAR is preferred. Then there may be patients who may be unconscious, in coma, suppose a trial is like that. For them also there are legally acceptable representative can give a informed consent for them. Okay, but informed consent is very essential. Then communication with the EC, that is the ethics committee, and communication with the sponsor is a very much important role of the investigator. He is the person who is responsible for IPs. IPs are the investigational products. Investigational products are the products which are being used for the investigation. Suppose we decided that we made a formulation of atazanavir and ritonavir. So atazanavir and ritonavir का जो drug है, that is the investigational product. That investigational product, handling of the investigational product, administration of the investigation products, its storage, everything is the responsibility of the investigator. Then reporting is another responsibility of the investigator. Safety reporting, progress reports, record keeping and handling is also the responsibility of the investigator. Then another important thing which I discussed was ethics committee. It is a set of people who are responsible for ensuring safety and well-being of the human participants. They should keep a check on all the documents. They should request and check all the important documents, and no trial can be ever started without the approval from the ethics committee. Then there is a check of the clinical trial, which should at least be done once a year by the ethics committee. It's the responsibility of the ethics committee. Recently, CDSCO has come with the regulation that all the ethics committee must be registered with CDSCO. Then only they can act as ethics committee. Now, what is ethics committee? I mean, it is a group of around 5 to 12 members who have different kind of job roles. They can be pharmacologists, they can be doctors, they can be social workers also, because doctors and all, they may have a one set mindset that we have to do the trial, but a social worker will have a philanthropic attitude towards the human participants. Then there can be lawyer, so there can be some specific subject matter experts. Then there could be a lay person who knows nothing about clinical trial, but knows only that the life of the human should not be hampered. So this also all together, all of them together make an ethics committee. They should at least have a social worker, a lay person, a lawyer, a clinician, that is a doctor, and subject matter experts. This should be a constitution of the ethics committee. Then what are the job opportunities? See, job opportunities are available at various points in clinical trials. They can be for sponsors. Sponsors require a lot of people who have job opportunities, require a lot of people who can work in clinical research. CROs have the opportunities, investigators have the opportunities, ethics committee have the opportunities for you all. You people can enter at these various key points. Like, what do a sponsor wants? A sponsor may need a medically qualified doctors, pharmacologists. All pharmacologists can opt to be the part of the clinical trials and entering into the sponsor organization and give their medical expertise on that. So doctors have a very good scope in clinical research. Then sponsor need protocol writers who will write a protocol. So they can be anybody who has an experience in a life sciences field, because if a vaccine trial or a drug trial, who can be a pharma professional, pharma educate, he can be from biotechnology, he can be from any life sciences stream, he can be from microbiology, he can be from biochemistry. They need protocol writers. Protocol writers need to have a knowledge of science and need to have a knowledge of research. So they can be any life sciences division. Okay. Then they need biostatisticians. Sponsor needs biostatisticians to imply all the statistical analysis, how the statistical analysis of the clinical research will be done. So for that they need the people who have their knowledge into stats. So biostatisticians are needed. Then they need CRAs, clinical research associates. These are the people who go to the sites and monitor the trial conduct at all sites. These CRAs need to be any people who have a scientific background. They can be normal science graduates, they can be microbiology graduates, they can be any life sciences division graduate, they can be pharma graduates, biotechnology graduates or whatnot, because CRAs need to have a scientific background. Then CRAs are monitors also. Then there are auditors. Auditors also can be the people from the science background. Then the record handling team is there, which has lot of opportunities. Then the data management team, people who have experience in software like Oracle, who have their experience in a bit of computer applications associated with the scientific background, can go to the data management teams. They need medical writers, people who have good English and are from a scientific background, can act as medical writers at the sponsor side for reporting of the events, for reporting of the clinical trial to the regulatories, to the IRBs, to the ethics committees. Then there are people who are regulatory affairs personnel who handle all the regulatory related things at the sponsor side. Approval of the protocol from the regulatory, then sending the report to the regulatory, for any handling of regulatory queries, regulatory regulatories, like in India, CDSCO DCGI is the regulatory. So for each trial to be conducted in India, we have to be in conversation with DCGI each time. So we have to get our protocol approved from DCGI, from CDSCO, and so all this communication between the regulatory and the sponsor is being done by the people who are regulatory affairs associates. Okay. So these are the opportunities which are given by the sponsor. Then there are a lot of opportunities at the CRO sites also. They also need protocol writers, they need CRAs, monitors, auditors, record handling teams. These all people are the people working as medical writers, protocol writers, CRAs. They all need to be from the science background. They could be any life science division, pharma division, biotechnology. They can enter into that. Then investigator. The investigator, there should be a team of investigators who are medically qualified. It's usually MBBS or BDS people. Then they need clinical research coordinators at the investigator side. These clinical research coordinators are also actually coordinating the entire conduct of the trial. They can be people from clinical research, any life science division, pharma, etc. Then at the site they need nurses for checking of vital parameters for the patients, for the volunteers, checking of various administering for dosing to the patients. So they need nurses at the investigator site. Number of laboratory personnel are needed for conducting laboratory tests. So they can be people who have done their degree in laboratory sciences. Then site management staff can be a regular admin staff. Then the people who are record keeping and handling the staff, they should be qualified science background people. Then they can be medical writers. So I have given you several places where you can enter being in clinical research. One is the sponsor site, one is the CRO, one is the investigator. And once you progress in the field, once you become qualified, you can be part of ethics committee also, but not at initial phases because they are set of qualified people. Now, who can be a clinical research professional? Clinical research professional range from medically qualified doctors to site management staff. Site management staff are a very, grassroots level people who are just graduates can enter as a site management staff at various investigator sites. They can be pharma professionals to the highly qualified doctors. They can be various sectors. Pharmacologists can enter, doctors can enter, clinical research students can enter, students from pharma sector can enter who have done their B.Pharm and M.Pharm or who have done their postgraduate diploma in clinical research or degree courses in clinical research. People who have done some courses related to regulatory affairs can also enter into this field. People who have their degrees in quality assurance can enter into this field, or any qualification in a life sciences stream can also enter. Then nurses can also be part of clinical research, laboratory trained personnel can also be part of research. So if you may be of any science background, if you get a small postgraduate executive diploma kind of a thing in clinical research or medical writing, it becomes easier for you to enter into the particular field. So this faculty of clinical research at IGMPI offers lot of diploma courses related to clinical research, related to pharmacovigilance, related to drug discovery and development, related to medical writing, which may be a regular, which may be a part-time course, or which may be a distance learning, whatever is to your ease. So if anybody is interested in those kinds of courses, they can always contact, as you can see on the slides. This is Miss Nisha Chauhan. The email ID is there and the phone numbers are there, and the location has been specified. In case you are interested, you can get a PG diploma course from out there, and then you can enter into the industry very easily, because then you have a good understanding of clinical research also along with your scientific background. So that's all. I hope this slide anybody wants. So thank you for being good listeners, and I can see a lot of questions from the people, and I'll answer each of them separately. Okay. Okay. So there are a lot of questions. So the first question comes from Ashrit Kalale. Okay, he asked that I am a biotechnology graduate. What kind of opportunity do I have to study further in this field? It's good. You have been in biotechnology. You are a graduate from biotechnology, Ashrit. you can easily enter into the field of clinical research because you have good experience, good knowledge of the basic backgrounds of science. And very frankly speaking, biotechnology research is not very well developed in India, but yes, clinical research is definitely progressing. If you have a kind of a small part-time or distance learning degree also with you, it would be easier for you to enter into the clinical research industry as either a medical writer or a protocol writer, or because you are from biotechnology, then you can enter into then as CRCs, clinical research associates. You can enter into as clinical research coordinators also for various industries, so various sites and various sponsors. So, and if you have a small diploma or degree course, then it would be easy for you to enter. Then your second question, Ashrit, is this kind of employment or a course which gives us a degree? It gives you a postgraduate diploma certification course which helps you to get an understanding of the clinical research field and the opportunities which you have further ahead. And even we do have a placement cell which is the interface between the industry and the institute, and you can get through a lot of opportunities. Then the next question comes from Karmatullah Khan. If anybody wants to talk to me, then you can even write that you want to talk to me. I'll get connected to you. Okay. So Karmatullah Khan, can you please differentiate between pharmacovigilance and a clinical trial and CDM? Okay. Karmatullah, CDM is part of clinical trial. Though nowadays it is a separate branch, but CDM comes with clinical trial. Pharmacovigilance is separate. I'll tell you what. Clinical trial is conduction of a trial onto the human volunteers. Okay. So there can be various phases of conduction of clinical trial. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. When actually the people are made to administer a particular drug and the effect of the drug is noted. Before even the drug comes into the market, it is done in various phases. This is a clinical trial. It may be of different phases. Now, to accumulate the data of the entire clinical trial, to save it for future review, to keep it in a safe condition is clinical data management. Once the data is being developed, it is being stored and it is kept for long through clinical data management softwares. Okay, so this is clinical data management. The number of organizations are actually dealing into clinical data management only. They have softwares like Oracle, they have softwares like Argus, and they use it and save their entire data. Now pharmacovigilance is entirely different. Pharmacovigilance comes into being once the drug is out into the market, once the people in the market are using the drug. So when the drug is in the market, if people are using it, administering it, then they have a chance that they may develop a particular adverse event. Like we did a research, we thought that okay, X drug will have X1, X2, X3, X4, X5, X10, these 10 adverse events. But a patient who used the drug got developed a X11 kind of adverse event. Now where will he report? He has to report his, because he has faced the adverse event which was not even speculated by the company. So he has to report his adverse event somewhere. So then the pharmacovigilance comes into being. That most of the companies who market their drugs design a pharmacovigilance cell for themselves where you can report the adverse events, and they keep on even doing the literature surveys to come to know what are the adverse events for their own drugs. So getting information about the adverse event of the drug of a particular company, making reports of it and developing what all the data for actually the adverse event management once the drug into the market is pharmacovigilance. It comes into being once the drug is in the market, but clinical trial is before the drug is into the market. Okay. I hope I have answered your question. Then the next question is from Nirmoy Roy. Okay, SAE reporting within 14 days in India or worldwide? This 14 days is actually a guideline by the Indian regulatory. For different regulators we have different guidelines, but the more or less the period remains the same only. But this exact 14 days is given by SEDISCO in Schedule Y. Okay. The next comes by Sneha Labana. What is a single control for a trial? Single control for a trial is investigator. Anybody will question an investigator only for any kind of occurrence during a trial. Okay, once a trial is completed, the job of the investigator is over, but he is always responsible for the trial he has conducted in case of anything related to safety of the patients. But sponsor is overall responsible for the trial, because after all he is the one who has hired the investigator, he is the one who has hired the CRO, he is the one who is actually financing a trial. So any occurrence at a particular site, the investigator would be a single point of control. For entire trial, obviously the sponsor is the person who is responsible for a trial. Then your second question comes, Sneha, is how an adverse event is converted to a seriously adverse event. Every adverse event is not serious adverse event. The ICH gives specific guidelines for serious adverse events. An adverse event is considered to be a serious adverse event only in 5 conditions. 1. If a person gets hospitalized because of that event, or he was hospitalized for 1 or 2 days and now his hospitalization is prolonged. This could be the second reason. The third reason could be if an event leads to a death, then it is a serious adverse event. Then the fourth reason could be a permanent disability. A person participated into a trial and somebody somehow landed up into a permanent disability which is now irreversible. Then it is a SAE, or it causes a birth defect, due to which suppose a pregnant female took a drug and it causes a permanent birth defect into a child which is about to come, and the child develops a particular anomaly, then that is a serious adverse event. So clearly Schedule Y and even the ICH gives the 5 conditions. Only in these 5 conditions it is considered as a serious adverse event. In all other conditions it is adverse event only. Okay, Sneha, your next question is, what are the documents needed to have for contract clinical organization to be authentic? First of all, the CRO should have be registered. Okay, CRO should have a set of monitors. CRO should have they should have their links with the ECs, and they should be registered. I mean, these are the basic things. They should have a site from where they can be operated. Then and what all, I mean, they should have a organogram for their site. Then they should have the qualification. CRO should be qualified by CDSCO. That is very important. I forgot to tell you, all the CROs should be qualified by the CDSCO, that is the Regulatory Authority of India. They should be qualified. Their name should be reflected in the list written by the CDSCO. There is a site, there is a list available at the CDSCO site, and the name of the CRO should be reflected into the list of the CDSCO. Then only it is authorized to work as a CRO. Okay. Then next question, Sneha Lavana comes is, can you please tell me all the trials, which time required, and number of people required, and a type of patient? See, the number of the trial, time required, it all depends upon the kind of a trial, the drug, and its impact, and how long. It's all about the trial design. Normally it is conducted in 3 kind of phases. Phase 1, which is usually for the dose adjustment. So it is usually on a smaller number of patients, because at that time not even the dose is decided. Then the number increases in the phase 2 trials, and the number even more increases in the phase 3 trials. Phase 3, it's always the patients on whom the trial is being conducted. Phase 1, it is the healthy volunteers to know the efficacy and the safety of the drug. Phase 2, it may be healthy, it may be patient, depending upon the kind of a drug. But the number of the patients increases as we develop, as we migrate from one phase to second, and second to third. Okay. Then the question comes from Minoy Roy. Are the protocol writers similar to medical writers? Yes, I would say there is a lot of similarity between the terms, but see, all protocol writers are medical writers, but all medical writers are not protocol writers, because medical writing is anyone who is writing any scientific information. He is a medical writer. He can write any scientific writing, he can write any patient information sheets, they can write protocols, they can write reports, they can write some labels. They all are medical writers, but protocol writers are specifically the people who design a protocol for the conduction of the study. So I should be clear, all protocol writers are medical writers, but medical writers, all medical writers are not protocol writers. Medical writers can be various kinds. One of the kind is protocol writer. Now what is Sneha Labana, you want to know auditor's qualification. See, auditor qualification is not very stringent. You need to have a scientific background, but what I feel is once you enter into a company, you can become an auditor straight away. But if you want to enter in, if you are a third party auditor, then you need to have a operations experience. You need to have worked into clinical research for some time to know how exactly the clinical research goes on. Qualification can be a biotechnology person, can be a microbiology person, can be a pharma sector person, can be a clinical research person, but with a good amount of experience if you are working third party, that is as an independent auditor. In case you are companies, then company trained you, so for them also the qualifications remain the same. And best would be you are from the QA background. That is quality assurance. Then Sneha Labana needs to ask, in case of outsourcing the clinical research site, is there guidelines and checklists for auditing a CRO? See, it's not actually the auditing of CRO checklist is not somewhere in the regulatory guidelines. But yes, all the sponsors in their internal have their guidelines through internal SOPs, have their internal checklist, and implying to those checklists they qualify a particular CRO. At times they get the CRO qualification done from the outside auditing agencies also, and they also maintain their individual checklist. This checklist is not present on the regulatory sites, but yes, creating them from the regulatory guidelines, these checklists are created by the individual companies. Okay. Now Devendra Bhansode say, I missed the session as there was some issue with my laptop and get the slides of this presentation. I'm sorry, I need to discuss with my peers to answer you this question. I'll get back to you in the last moment. Okay. Then Monali Patel asks, is it required to have WHO approval for CRO if we are going with registration of a medicine into a foreign company? Not WHO approval, I won't say, but yes, obviously if you are WHO qualified, it's very good. It's not necessary, but see, suppose you are going to sell a drug in Brazil, so you need to get yourself accredited by ANVISA. If you need to get a sell a drug in US, you need to get yourself accredited by US. Not every time WHO. Okay, WHO is additional advantages, but not necessarily WHO. If you are going to sell your drug in Malaysia, you need to get yourself accredited by the Malaysian regulatory. So it depends upon the regulatory region which you are working. Your CRO needs to get approval. And approval also, some need pre-approval, some need post-approval. It varies, guidelines varies from each regulatory to each regulatory. Okay. Then Sneha Labana, you have an idea how to enter as a trainer in clinical research. What is the qualification required? See, if you are experienced in clinical research, you have experience of around 2, 3, 4, 5 years, then you can start as a trainer in clinical research. In case you don't have, then first you need to get yourself experience. Just by a degree, you cannot be a trainer. You first need to get yourself trained to become a trainer, and for that you need to either fetch some. There are certain organizations who give you GCP trainings. There are certain organizations which give you clinical research trainings. You can get yourself accredited and then become a trainer. Okay. Then it's Karmatullah Khan. Do the companies will not train the people in PV before giving a post? Definitely yes. All the companies give the training. No company makes you start working without a training. Okay. Then Sneha Labana, another question, for selecting a clinical research organization, what certification need to have and their importance? The main certification is approval from the DCGI, that is Drug Control General of India, if it is an Indian CRO, and if it is a CRO elsewhere, the approval from the respective regulatory is a must. You should have an approval document from the regulatory. Then in order to open a CRO, what are the guidelines available? You can go through the Schedule Y, you can go through Indian GCP, and you can easily collect the data from there and start your own CRO with lot of you need to look into the market also, but guidelines should be from CIDSCO only in India. Then Karmatullah Khan, how do you differentiate all with regulatory affairs like US FDA? How can you differentiate all with regulatory affairs like US FDA? See, US FDA, if you want a drug to be marketed in US, then only you need to comply with the US guidelines. If you want to get marketed in Europe, then you have to comply yourself to EMEA. If you need to market in United Kingdom, you have to comply yourself to MHRA. So, and all are basically derived from ICH only. Every regulatory has got the guidelines from ICH only, but they have little bit of differences depending upon the market in which you want to sell your drug. You can go through the guidelines of that particular regulatory and get yourself registered for doing the particular trial. For registration of a product, Monali Patel, at the time of B study requirement, what is the requirement of B on the basis of the BCS classification? See, Monali, for B studies, normally you need to have you need to get a B NOC from the regulatory in India by submitting all the profiles, by classifying whether it is a new drug or whether it is a drug which has been there in since 1 year, whether it has been a drug which has been there in since 4 years. Year wise they have classified, and if more than 4 years, then they consider it as an old drug. So depending upon the number of years since which the drug is into the market, depends upon what all you need to give to the regulatory. There is a form called form number 44 in which you need to apply for the getting a BNOC from the CDSCO. In that form number 44, you need to fill the classes to which your drug belongs to, whether it is an old drug, new drug, or a new drug which has been there since 2 years, and depending upon, there would be a fees depending upon the number of years it has been into the market. And along with, if the sponsor is an international sponsor and you need to import the drug, then you need to even get a T license from the regulatory, saying that for that, I guess the form number is 12. You need to fill the form number 12 and give to the regulatory that I want to import the drug for conducting a clinical trial, be it a BE trial also, my experience also. So then it is Joshua Martin. Okay, can you explain a cohort in a case control study design? I think we will have further lectures and webinars related to clinical trial designs, in which we will have cohorts. Actually, the study are being converted into cohorts. We do not enroll like 100 patients, we will enroll in one. If a drug is new, we will enroll 100 patients and do the trial on them. No, at many times we are not very much aware what kind of effect the drug may have. So we enroll patients in different groups. We make a group like, okay, initially we will just have a study of 10 people. We will enroll 10, get the data, and if the data, and analyze the data, if we find that okay, it's good, then we enroll another 10, then we enroll another 10. So the study is being done in several cohorts, not one go. And once you get confident that okay, yes, what we are expecting out of the trial, it's what we are getting, then you can go a single trial also. Then okay, this Nitish thing, he has asked a question, but he is offline right now, so I think I need not. Oh, okay, again he is online. Name the major companies in India for clinical trials. There are a number of companies like Quintiles, there are companies like Seropharm, then for clinical trials there is Clinera, then lot of companies, but majorly these are the 2-3 big names which I have taken to you. Then kindly differentiate between all phases of the clinical trial study. Okay, Tamanna, this is your question. As I told you, there are 4 phases of the clinical trial. Phase 1, which is usually for the identification of the dose of a particular drug. It is normally done in the healthy volunteers, smaller number of patients. At that time, you are not very much aware that what would be the effect on the patients. So normally it is done in people within good medical facilities, smaller number of healthy patients, to determine the dose of a particular drug. Once you determine an approximate dose of a drug, then you enter into the phase 2. Then you take some patients and you set a therapeutic window that okay, 20 mg to 40 mg would be my window. To some I will give 20, to some I will give 40, to some I will give 30, and then you get a particular dose to enter into the phase 3 trial. Phase 2 trial is a step ahead of phase 1, in which you actually determine the therapeutic effects or at the recommended doses. Then at this, in phase 2 you set a dose and enter into the phase 3 trial, which is actually done on the patients, on larger number of patients. Usually they are multi-centric trials, not conducted in a particular center. The patients is somewhere like 1000, so that you can actually see the effect of the drug on the patients and then make the drug into the market. Then can you differentiate between Tamanna Bharti, between post-marketing clinical studies and pharmacovigilance? See, pharmacovigilance is just AE monitoring. Anybody who faces an adverse event once he administers a drug can report an adverse event to a particular company or on site or anywhere, so that adverse event can be captured by a company and brought into their database. This is pharmacovigilance. Now once and after pharmacovigilance, you come to know that okay, this particular event we didn't expect and it is being reported by number of patients, number of subjects once they use a particular drug. So a company may decide to conduct another study to monitor this adverse event effect. So that will be a post-marketing study. That will not be pharmacovigilance. Is just keeping a track of the adverse event and maintaining their database. Now if something come out of this maintaining of database and you conduct a research for that, then it will be a post-marketing clinical study. Okay. Then Karmatullah Khan, you have asked, how can you please differentiate all departments PV with regulatory affairs like of US FDA? I mean PV we can deal it separately, Karmatullah, because PV has entirely different requirements, and as I told you, requirements vary from all regulatories, for all regulatories, but they have the exception from ICH only. But for PV we will definitely have a separate webinar. Okay. Then kindly differentiate technically between all phases of clinical trial and different. Tamanna, I hope I have answered this question. And what is the role of government in clinical research? To which extent? This is being asked by Monali Patel. Monali, government has nowadays, earlier the things were easy in India. That's why number of sponsors were targeting India, but now the Indian regulatory has become very strict. They want reports at each and every moment. They want approvals at each and every moment. Before starting a clinical trial, no trial can be started, even a BE trial, even a bioequivalence trial, without approval from the Indian regulatory, that is DCGI. Once they give the approval, at times they give conditional approval that okay, you do this, then only we will give you the approval, and then you have to come after some time, after every in a particular defined frequency, you have to submit the reports to the regulatory, and the final approval comes from regulatory only once you submit the report to them. So nowadays DCGI has become very strict. We cannot think of conducting a clinical trials and playing with DCGI. They have become very strict in that because of the impact on the life of the human individuals. Then is there any difference between post-marketing clinical studies and pharmacovigilance? Tamanna, I have already answered this question. Any trial would be post-marketing clinical trial, but compilation of the adverse events and making the database is pharmacovigilance. Then Karmatullah, why can't we depend on an alternate system of medicine like homeopathy instead of spending a lot of money in clinical research? Karmatullah, see, it's a very, I would think, a myth in the mind of people that homeopathic medicines and Ayurvedic medicines or Unani medicines don't have any adverse effects, don't need to get optimized. No, even they need to get optimized. Though I would really say, yes, the ministry has not come up with very strong regulations for these kind of medication, but I am very sure in near future they will come with regulations for all these kind of medication systems, where we will have to conduct trials even for the medications of this kind, which are homeopathic or Ayurvedic. We would not be able to use homeopathic drugs without a trial, because after all it's the life of the patient which can be affected. So it's a wrong conception that they don't have adverse effects. They don't have, we need to determine the dose for Ayurvedic medicines also, we need to determine the adverse events for Ayurvedic medicines also, and there should be a process of doing clinical trial for even these kind of medication systems. Okay. Then Tamanna, I hope your question is there, again you are asking the same question. So I have already answered the difference between post-marketing clinical studies and pharmacovigilance. Do you have any course in GMP and GCP can be done certification? Yes, Mrinoy, you can see the current slide which shows For all the programs, we definitely have course related to GMP. We have the course related to GCP, which is basically clinical research. We have the part-time courses also, distance learning courses also, full-time courses also. For all those kind of programs, you can contact Nisha at her mail ID, and the telephone is displayed, and you can come up to me. Anybody who wants to talk to me can even ask me, and I can talk to them. I have answered all the questions, I guess. Any other questions? Okay. Thanks, Karma. Even it was my pleasure answering all your questions. Thanks, Minoy. Anyone else? Any questions? Please post me up. Is it all done? Shall we depart? Okay. Thank you. Thank you.